Hey, welcome again. Chris and I we're having such a great conversation. We thought we'd make part two. So this is part two. If you haven't seen part one, it's about open houses. This is about part two, tenant occupied homes. What's the story? How do we do it? What are some ins and outs, and where can we get in trouble is where I want to go with this one. Chris, again, thank you for joining me. I appreciate everything you do. I know if they watch part one, they're going to see us, kiss and make up and do all that kind of stuff because, we give accolades to each other, but, let's not try to do too many. So the accolades are all done. Let's get into it. Tenant occupied homes. What's the mandate right now on tenant occupied homes once and for all?
So, okay, I sound like Rocky Finseth when I say this, but we got to go back in history a little bit. So if you remember, we talked about showings and the ability to show properties, and it was mandated immediately, no tenant occupied showings. You cannot disturb a tenant for the health and safety of that person remaining in their home. When we had the stay-at-home order, tenants were protected, and that was created by the governor's order. And there was no courts to process evictions because they had shut those down. There was no constable to serve notice. There were no notice companies that you could hire to go out and serve your traditional notice. There were a couple exemptions. One was that if the tenant was creating a health and safety issue or a nuisance problem to the community, you could still move forward with a partial eviction to be able to get them out of the property and to fix that. But right now, still to this point, there are no tenant occupied showings. Now, if I put a property under contract because I wrote it subject to inspection and the seller accepted my offer and we're now under contract and I have to do a home inspection, appraisal, or a walkthrough, those are scheduled appointments that are allowable for the purpose of the inspection. So that can be done, and that was clarified, thank goodness, because it was very ambiguous the way it was set up, but that was clarified that that is allowable with proper procedures taken to protect the tenant and the buyer, with proper procedures on the COVID cleaning process, and to make sure that it's absolutely based on the tenant's timeline. However, if the tenant says, no, you cannot come in, you can't come in. Another major issue we saw is that agents were accepting purchase contracts on properties that were tenant occupied with no clauses in the contract that helped everyone understand this tenant could refuse to move. And so buyers were investing money in inspections and appraisals on homes they can't close on. We created through the state a number of addendums, and I got to give a big shout out to Molly Hamrick with Coldwell Banker. Molly Hamrick was the most vocal broker about the issues with property management in the state. And so like every good vocal broker, we made her the chair of the property management PAG that looked into all of the issues, and you served on that PAG, and thank you for that. They did an incredible job. They had a series of meetings with two well-respected state judges that participated, and the state AG's office, and a number of other organizations that are affected by the tenancy issue. And they came out with a number of documents. They came out with the COVID addendum. They came out with the health and safety questionnaire that they have.
Yeah, the acknowledgement form.
The acknowledgement. They did everything that they could to provide the ability for you to safely accept an offer or to list a home and get an offer and protect the parties, so that there wasn't a dispute at the end. And so number one, make sure that you're looking out for that. If you're an agent out there, that you have proper clauses and go to your broker and see best practices for it. But you go through those two things. So, okay, I can't show a tenant occupied property. Tom, you're going to ask me, can I show a tenant occupied property? No.
So yeah, why not? I don't get it. I mean, it's just a tenant occupied property, no big deal.
Yeah. And I've heard people say, well, the tenant's agreeable. The tenant wants me to show it. The tenant wants to move out. It only takes once for the tenant to file a complaint against you because of something they didn't like or something that didn't happen, or they say to you, oh yeah, Tom, come on in and show the property, no problem. And then they call the AG and turn you in because of something that happened last year. Right?
Yeah. And that's the rub, right? I mean, if the tenant says it's okay to show my house, it's okay to show the house until it's not okay to show the house. And it's okay to show the house until they call the AG's office and say the landlord's putting duress on me because they're forcing me to show the house.
And I've had people say, you can't tell me I can't do that. I mean, we're individuals. We can decide what they want. Fine. I mean, it's the law. It's an executive order signed by the governor under his authority to say you can't do this. And it's kind of, it's like the speed limit sign says 65. And if you go 90, that's your fault, not my fault. But the only difference is when you go 90, you get a speeding ticket. If you violate this order, the AG, the Attorney General, is going to prosecute you instead of just the nice policeman that writes you the ticket. I don't want that. And the worst case scenario is you're fined by the municipality that you do it in. They pull your real estate license and your business license, and your business is gone, completely gone. And I don't want to be the person that causes that to happen. And I'm telling you, it's every individual broker's risk on what they do and their business practices. And we're all independent contractors, but why would you take that risk? There are so many better ways. You could get the tenant on your side and ask them for video of the property. You could explain to them how a subject to inspection offer works. You could, do a number of things with the buyer to help them understand virtual tours, virtual showings. I mean, there's just so many options. And the best part is it's now socially acceptable. Everyone gets Zoom. Everyone has been on a Zoom call. My 92-year-old grandmother has been on a Zoom call during this crisis, and she gets how it works. And so I think the whole thing is that we've been forced to change and accept this technology. And so use it to your benefit. Don't chance losing your license or your business license.
Yeah, and I've always told my folks and the people that I talk to is, look, communication is key. If you're communicating with your tenant and everything is cool, then you know what, you can take that chance.
Sure.
But just know they can come back and bite you in the butt. That's where we're at. So tenant occupied homes. Go ahead.
Let's talk about the phasing structure. So we talked about that in our other video, but there was a phasing plan, and the governor did agree. Or let me take it back. The governor's staff understood the possibility, right? They didn't agree, that in phase 3, there could be an exception for tenant occupied showings. And that was the way that they were going to alleviate that issue. And then in phase 4, we'd be back to normal showing protocols that we were before. We've never made it to phase 3. And all of us thought July 1st was going to be that opening. And now we've kind of been stuck in phase 2. And so do understand there is a plan currently that's accepted by everybody that makes sense, where as long as, it's not an issue, as long as we don't have more cases, as long as there's not a flare up, then with proper COVID-19 procedures and risk mitigation, you could go in and show a tenant occupied property, possibly in phase 3. But that's the goal for right now that we're working on.
So to sum that one up, as soon as we all apparently wear masks and give in to this whole mask debate, do I have to wear one? Do I not have to wear one? Come on. Let's cut this COVID stuff. And here's the thing I don't really say a lot is everybody's going to get it or going to get a vaccine. Let's face it, that's going to happen. And until everybody gets it or there's a vaccine, we're in this whole COVID thing until all that happens.
Yeah.
So let's try to keep it down. And until we get to phase 3, it sounds like open houses won't be able to be done, and we won't be doing any tenant occupied showings, and we can go from there. Right.
That's it. And anytime they ask, I'm going to have the answer. Unfortunately, not right now. But again, it's each broker's business practice that comes into question here. And, our job as the association is to provide information, to lobby for our best efforts, to help do what we can to protect the membership, to keep our industry essential. And tenant occupied showings would be an easy way for the governor to say, hey, I've seen too many people violate this, and he's done this with other industries. I've seen too many people violate the order that I've put out, so now I'm going to shut you down completely. And I don't think any of us want that, and I think we need to be cognizant of it. And there's only about, in Southern Nevada, I know the numbers, there's only about 700 properties that are affected that are actually tenant occupied by this order. And there's 5,100 available on the market, or 5,200. And so, it's a very small part of that, but I get it. It's a part that people want to sell and we want to get transferred. And so just, be thoughtful of that tenant and don't put yourself in jeopardy.
Well, again, I have to thank you, Chris, for taking the time out of your busy schedule as the state president and as the broker over at Signature. So thank you for all you do. I appreciate it as everybody else does. I know we talked about this before, but neither of us wanted to get in, thought we'd be in the issues and dealing with the stuff that we're doing. So again, thank you for all you've done and appreciate it. All right. Thank you all for watching. And until the next time, this is Tom Blanchard saying, wash your hands. Wash your hands. All right. Thanks.